GeogAtoZ supporting the National Festival of Fieldwork from the Geographical Association. Today, F is for field sketch. So imagine this is your school field. Imagine this is the side of your school. This is what you've got on offer. How are we going to develop those children's opportunities to sketch in the field? Well, we need to start close to home and give them time to develop their noticing skills. First of all, without any paper, without any whiteboards, just by looking. So we really need to promote the idea of looking forwards, looking around us, really looking at the environment that they can see. So using the ordinary and everyday to build up stamina and to observe both the seen and the unseen, because there's no children, there's no birds, there's no squirrels, there's no foxes or rabbits in that picture. When do they appear? How do those things change over time? So we really need to start to develop the idea of change within particular landscapes, because we're going to be capturing, just like a photograph does, a snapshot of time. Because a field sketch can be different because it's captured over time, which I think is a very powerful thing to think about. So we're practicing here observation skills, developing their place knowledge of that location. We're recording what is a complex location. There's lots of parts to it. This will aid their memory over time because they're spending quality time looking at it. It will encourage their curiosity. Questions will emerge, supporting their communication. And actually, it will simplify a complex scene. When we look at a mountain, when we look at a high street, when we look at a river or a park, it's a complex scene. And what we need to do is to find the geography within it. So this will support their opportunities to read maps and to create maps in the future, develops that strong sense of place, and links to direction and position. So the great resource really is just deepening that understanding of what these different highlights mean. So looking closely and noticing details slows them down and gives them more time. It develops that place knowledge where they learn about specific features, the features of the green space, the types of trees, the houses and homes and buildings nearby, the different climbing frames and playground areas, the very compacted grounds, the very closely mown ground, who's caring for that and developing that. So we're recording this complex location, and sketching is a way, as I say, is a longitudinal process over time to collect and record what we see during field work, often looking in one direction and then maybe going somewhere else and looking elsewhere. So drawing remember helps us remember what, alongside using words, we can then use to help discuss the geography. What is the word for that? Why is it there? Who, what, why, where, when, how, if, might, should, could. All those words should and questions should emerge from this conversation we can have while the sketching is going on. That's a really important dialogic feature of this. The slowing down, the giving time allows them and allows us to point out, to give that opportunity to discuss and describe and define and explain. So it supports the communication process. The sketches scaffold and support the explanation of whatever the landscape is. And if we do that locally, if we do that safely in a place they know already, that can help to really point out to them how much richness there is in other sites and scenes they could go to. So we're simplifying the complexity. We're teaching them actually to focus on certain parts. We don't need to get exactly all the parts of the buildings, all the parts of the climbing frame correct. We need to try and teach them to not be too particular about how we do this. We want accuracy, we want scale, really important to focus on that, but actually we need to train them to be comfortable, maybe doing it in 3 minutes and then moving on, maybe doing it in 5 minutes and then moving on. So there is that feature of, right, we're just here for a short space of time, get as much down as possible, and then we move somewhere else. And of course, the link to map skills is important because this is a ground survey, and maps are a ground and an aerial survey in particular because that's from above. And we need to teach them the ordnance survey. Map makers will do that. They will take the time on the ground, take the time looking from above to put these long, considered and complex maps together. So it's noticing local features and then thinking about connections between the homes and the school in this case, between the animals and the humans that are there, between everything that's going on in this particular scene. Currently static, but obviously it's very live when we are there. And then finally, it's that link to direction and place. Where are things in relation to each other? Why are they there? The trees are on the perimeter of the field. The tree is to the left of the path. We can start using some of that directional and positional language.